All right, so technology displacing people. It happens basically throughout history. You look back 100 years ago, it was agriculture. Technology advancements in that industry had displaced a lot of people. So people that relied on being part of the agricultural system and working with their hands, probably most likely, were displaced because machinery came in. Automation of certain parts of the process made a lot of that human capital redundant, and so people were forced to find something else to do. So in the short run, that hurts the people, right? Because they lose their job, or they lose their money, and they're going to have to find a way to support their lifestyle or their family or whatever it is. In the long run, it's usually a good thing because it means that the technology is better, and you want to optimize what humans are doing. So if a machine can do something that a human does and it can do it well, then all things being equal, you would prefer probably for the machine to do it. Now, when that happens too fast, though, you end up with a lot of unemployed people, or people that don't have a use because they haven't found new employment yet. So it's been happening with kind of customer service, and think of like grocery stores or restaurants with all the digital ordering and the order in the kiosk and the self checkout lane and the offshoring of customer service. And the internet has been able to automate a lot of the processes involving sales and customer service, so that real people don't really have to do that function anymore. Now, sales is still something where, unless you have just such a convincing product or such an easy on-ramp process, you probably still need to have some amount of salespeople, to follow up with people and to try to make the sale. But customer service and even just basic sales type stuff can probably, and it's already happening where it's being automated, or it's just they're cutting out the real person. So the company is cutting the expense of paying these real human workers, and they're automating it, or they're building in technology that makes it easier for customers to get what they want. And then the company doesn't have to pay, or they have to, they get the advantage of having less customer service people, or less salespeople, or less people on their payroll. So if that's done well, it's probably a good thing for the company. Like I said, it hurts the employee because they lose their job, or they maybe get cut back on their hours. But ultimately, in the long run, it's usually the most efficient thing, because it means that the people that got displaced now have to find a new productive way of contributing to the economy. But like I said, if that happens too fast, you end up with a lot of people that have nothing to do, or there's no real avenue of where they're going to go find employment or an occupation where they can maintain their quality of life. So that's kind of what's been happening, with people getting fired or laid off because the company's profits, the company's results don't look as good as they did a year ago or 2 years ago. And so if the company can't show that they've made more revenue, they can't show that they've made more revenue, right? So what they do is they cut the expenses. That way it looks like they have a better profit or less of a loss. If they were growing and the revenue was there, then they probably wouldn't cut back on a lot of positions. But a lot of times the mass layoffs or the mass firings happen because the revenue's not there. It's dried up, and now they have a bunch of overhead that they still need to pay, and they have no new revenue, or they have lessened revenues. So in order to paint a better picture, they say, hey, we can't show you that we've grown our revenue because you can see that we haven't. But what we can do is cut our expenses so we don't have to pay out as much. Now, we might lose human capital, and we might lose some support roles and people that were valuable to our company, but we want to show shareholders, and we want to try to boost the stock price or make the stock price be not as impacted to the negative. And so that's what a lot of the companies are doing. I think Intel was down very big last week. I didn't look to see if it rebounded significantly, but they laid off a bunch of people, and probably just because the numbers were not good, and their only way to show investors that they were focused on it was, hey, we're going to cut our expenses like big time. We're going to lay off a bunch of these people and resize the company that we have to fit what the current economy is. All those reactions, though, it's very reactionary when this happens, because things can change pretty quickly. So if you lay off a bunch of people and then in 6 months or a year, things start to pick up again, well, now you just lost 10,000 employees or 12,000 employees, and now you don't have the people. So now you have to go, hire a bunch of people. You have to put them through the onboarding process. You got to train them for a period of time. You got to deal with the turnover of people quitting, starting, quitting, most jobs, there's like quite a bit of stuff that has to happen. You got to get training. You got to get logged into like all the right systems with IT. They have to give you the equipment. So it's a big process to hire new people on in most companies. So you don't really want to let people go if you don't have to, because it's hard to bring them back. And then when you do bring them back, you typically have to pay people at the market rate. If you're hiring them, you can't continue to pay. If you've had employees that have been at a company for 10 years, oftentimes you can get away with paying them less than market rate because you're just giving them a very small raise every year. But if you're bringing on a new person and you're negotiating a new salary with them or whatever, they're going to expect that they get paid the market rate because it's a new job. It's they're having that conversation right now. And you're going to have to pay most likely a higher price. So it also involves dealing with, interviews and having to interview a bunch of people, and that takes time away from the current employees that are already there. So companies don't want to lay people off, especially if they can see that they have value or will have value in the near term, because in order to bring people back, it's a very time-intensive process. And if you need a couple thousand people, that's going to take a good amount of time and money and energy to bring them all back or to hire new people. So let me know what you guys think on it. I don't think I don't think they make these decisions lightly, but if things aren't looking good and they can sense that their stock price is going to be really negatively impacted, then they have to, their hand is kind of forced to do things because ultimately it's about the profits of the company and about the shareholder value. That's how the top management people get graded. So they're going to put that ahead of, a lot of times they're going to put that ahead of keeping people on staff, right? They're going to lay off people if it's better for the share price. So let me know what you think. Subscribe. See you on the next one.